Yesterday, Syria's interim government announced a landmark agreement with the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. The deal attempts to establish cooperation between the two groups, with Syria's interim president, Abu Muhammad al-Jalani, describing it as a, quote, real opportunity to build a new Syria. But it comes in the wake of the deadliest violence in the country since the fall of the Assad regime late last year. Will this deal be a good one or a bad one for Christians and other religious minorities who have been targeted by Islamists? Chris Mitchell, Middle East Bureau Chief at CBN News in Jerusalem, joins me to discuss. Chris, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks again for staying up late there in Jerusalem.
Great to be with you again, Tony. Actually, I just arrived a few hours ago from the States, so I'm up anyway.
Well, good. I appreciated the use of your studio last week when I was in Jerusalem. I know you were back here in the States. So let's focus first on this deal. What are some of the specific details that we know about as of right now?
Well, we know there's going to be some cooperation between the Syrian regime, the new with al-Jalani, and the Syrian Democratic Forces. Tony, this has been really a bright spot in the whole Middle East, this area of northeast Syria. You've been there, I know, and I have. It's really a democratic form of government, a bright spot there in the region. When I first heard about this news, Tony, I was a bit upset and concerned that maybe this area, this autonomous area, was giving up too much of its autonomy to the new regime of al-Jalani. I did just get off the phone with our friend Nadine Maenza, and she says it's really a better deal, a good deal in the long run, and it really doesn't give up many of the concerns that some people had about too much autonomy relinquished to the al-Jalani. Another big point, Tony, is the fact that over time, the U.S. and this autonomous government in northeast Syria has been able to capture and imprison tens of thousands of ISIS fighters. And the concern has been maybe under this new agreement they would be let loose. It appears not, but we'll see what happens. There's great concern here at Israel, Tony, about this new regime. And that's why Israel is actually hitting military targets inside Syria on an ongoing basis to make sure that the new regime doesn't have the kind of military prowess that it could use against Israel or others in the neighborhood.
Yeah, this was a conversation I had last week with the Prime Minister. He brought up how Christians were being targeted there in Syria and expressed concern about this new Islamic regime. I don't see how you can live at peace with an Islamic regime. I know they're trying to put a new face on this. I understand in some conversations I've had with others today trying to figure this thing out. It's a little bit complicated when you look at all the different parties. But the targeting of the Alawites and the sweeping up of some Christians in those massacres, as they've been described, that took place over the weekend, apparently put pressure on this insurgent-led government to come to some type of agreement.
Yeah, and that's the other side of it, Tony, that it does, you wonder what's going to happen when the al-Jalani government really allowed the slaughter of perhaps over 10,000 Alawites, and many Christians got caught up in this. And something that we're really not hearing, you would think the outcry from the world based on what we're seeing in these horrific videos of people literally being slaughtered en masse. In terms of northeast Syria, that's one place where a lot of Christians have been protected. Right. In fact, they're part of the government. They're in representative government. In fact, this government requires about 40% of the representation to be women. So it really is a really bright spot. And what happens to this regime, this agreement with the regime, remains to be seen. It will be implemented by the end of 2025, but we'll see what happens as it goes on. And another thing, Tony, to remember is the pressure of Turkey. Turkey has been attacking the northeast Syrian autonomous government, killing hundreds and displacing hundreds of thousands there over the last number of years. And I think Turkey is part of this equation
Right.
as well, perhaps with the SDF trying to make sure that they can make peace with the al-Jilani regime.
I mean, Chris, you know this area well. My concern would be this is kind of causing them to maybe think everything is at peace, because Turkey is also supporting al-Jilani and the HTS, and so if the Syrian Democratic Forces, the northeast area up there, feel like this will get Turkey off their back, I mean, could this not be kind of lulling them into a sense of security when it's not really there?
That's very possible, Tony, because the Turkish government really was backing al-Jilani when he was known as HTS, that Islamist government. And also, going forward, you understand that much of the cabinet right now of this al-Jilani regime is Turkish. And so it does make the question, I wonder what will happen in months or years, lulling them into a false sense of security. Right now, some people think this is a good deal, as I said, but we'll see a very, very leery of Turkish plans and goals going forward, as well as al-Jilani.
Yeah.
But it's certainly a matter to be praying for this particular area.
Yeah. Final question for you, Chris. We just got about 45 seconds left. But I also understand that the Syrian Democratic Forces are friends in the northeast corner. Realize America is pulling out its troops, pulled out most, there's a few left, that they felt like they had to have a deal for some form of protection going forward.
Over the years, Tony, one of the feelings I've had is that it would be so good just to have a presence, a U.S. presence there in northeast Syria, to be a protection to these people. And that's one area where I felt it here in the Middle East. It would be good to have a U.S. presence and plant the U.S. flag just as a bulwark against any plans by al-Jilani or Turkey itself.
Yeah, because as you've pointed out, it is such a great, almost organic representation of religious freedom and political discourse. It's just amazing to see what has happened up there in that northeast corner. It's something that should be really fostered as an example of what could happen in the Middle East. Chris Mitchell, again, thanks for staying up late. Great to see you, and always appreciate your insights.
Thanks, Tony.